So in comparing the two, Jesus' holistic view of shalom aligns with Hebrew thought, integrating physical and spiritual renewal in a manner that Greek dualism does not. His miracles and teachings affirm the goodness of the created world, countering the Platonic idea that devalues the physical. Although Jesus' focus on eternal life, John 17:3, shares some similarities with the Greek emphasis on the soul's immortality as seen in Plato's Phaedo, he presents it as relational, rather than an escape from the physical. The Hebrew holistic perspective makes Jesus' teachings more connected to everyday life than the abstract dualism of Greek philosophy. Is this summary correct?
Yes, it's crystal clear. Now would be a good time to discuss the differences between storytelling and systematic philosophy.
Sounds good to me. Dive into it, brother.
Okay, in Hebrew tribal life storytelling, the Hebrews used narratives, parables, and poetry to convey truth. Jesus was a master storyteller. Parables like the prodigal son, Luke 15:11-32, use relatable stories to teach about God's grace. His use of repetition, happy are, in Matthew 5:3-12, reflects Hebrew poetic structures. He reinterpreted Hebrew stories, such as comparing himself to the Passover lamb, John 1:29, to connect his mission to Israel's history. On the other hand, in Greek philosophy, Greek thinkers favored systematic logical exposition. Plato's dialogues, such as the Republic, systematically build arguments to explore justice or the ideal state. Aristotle's works, like Nicomachean Ethics, use logical categories to analyze virtue and happiness. Philosophical schools such as Stoicism provided structured ethical systems, often expressed as precepts or maxims.
So when comparing the two, Jesus' storytelling aligns with the Hebrew preference for narrative over systematic theology, engaging listeners emotionally and experientially. Greek philosophy's logical, systematic approach contrasts sharply, emphasizing argument over story. While Jesus' debates with Pharisees, like in Matthew 22, show some rhetorical similarity to Socratic dialogue, his parables invite personal engagement instead of abstract analysis, staying true to Hebrew narrative traditions.
Absolutely. And that serves as a good segue to the next comparison: poetic language versus logical precision. In Hebrew tribal life, the poetic and layered nature of the Hebrew language is marked by wordplay and vivid imagery. Jesus used this. Metaphors, such as Good Shepherd, John 10:11, draw on Hebrew imagery, Psalm 23. Titles like Son of Man, Mark 2:10, conveyed layered messianic significance from Daniel 7. His teachings likely involved Aramaic and Hebrew wordplay, like rock in Matthew 16:18, highlighting Hebrew linguistic richness. On the other hand, in Greek philosophy, the Greeks valued precise logical language. Plato's dialogues seek clear definitions of abstract concepts, such as justice in the Republic. Aristotle's terminology, such as in eudaimonia for flourishing, is precise and technical, avoiding ambiguity. Stoic maxims are brief and logical, created for rational use.
Again, when comparing the two, Jesus' poetic language, rich in imagery, fits within the Hebrew tradition. It uses metaphors and wordplay to convey meaning. In contrast, Greek philosophy strives for clarity and universality through precise logical language that often eliminates ambiguity. Although Jesus' teachings are logically coherent, his responses to the Pharisees have a distinctly Hebrew quality, and his teachings are marked by poetic depth and cultural resonance. This approach prioritizes vividness over analytical precision.
So, true. All right, let's wrap this up by examining a synthesis and broader implications summary. First, Jesus' alignment with Hebrew thought. Jesus' teachings are deeply rooted in the Hebrew tribal worldview: communal, covenantal, concrete, holistic, narrative-driven, and poetically rich. He used these pillars to make his message resonate with his Jewish audience, presenting himself as the fulfillment of their covenantal hopes, Matthew 5:17, while expanding the vision to include all nations. His parables, miracles, and relational language invited experiential faith, aligning with yada and shalom.
And to compare that with Greek philosophy, Greek philosophy focused on individual reason, abstract inquiry, dualism, and systematic logic sharply contrasts with Jesus' approach. Where Hebrew thought blends physical and spiritual, Greek thought often separates them. Where Hebrews use stories and imagery, Greeks rely on arguments and definitions. Jesus' teachings emphasize lived faith and community over personal enlightenment or philosophical systems.
Examining points of resonance, we see that despite differences, there are connections. Jesus' universal mission, Matthew 28:19, aligns with Greek philosophy's quest for universal truths. His logical debates with religious leaders reflect Socratic methods, and his focus on eternal life shares some similarities with Greek ideas of the soul. However, these resonances are situated within a Hebrew relational and covenantal framework, not a Greek rationalist one.
We also see a cultural bridge in the New Testament. As the gospel spread into the Greco-Roman world, early Christians such as Paul adapted Jesus' teachings to connect with Greek audiences, as seen in Acts 17:22-31, where Paul quotes Greek poets. This shows that while Jesus' teachings were rooted in Hebrew thought, they were flexible enough to engage with Greek philosophy, highlighting their universal relevance. So based on everything we have shared today, here are our final thoughts.
Jesus' teachings are deeply rooted in the Hebrew core values of community, covenant, direct experience, holistic worldview, storytelling, and poetic language, which causes them to resonate strongly with his Jewish audience. Greek philosophy, highlighting individual reason, abstraction, dualism, and systematic logic, clearly contrasts with this, emphasizing more on intellectual clarity than on faith in relationships. Although Jesus' universal mission and certain rhetorical strategies share similarities with Greek thought, his approach remains distinctly Hebrew, encouraging lived, communal faith rather than philosophical speculation. Recognizing these differences enhances our understanding of the Bible, revealing how Jesus communicated within his cultural context while delivering a message that went beyond it.
If you'd like, we can look into specific examples like Plato's philosophy focused on the individual soul's journey to truth through reason affecting modern Christian thought, or rely on arguments and definitions may have caused strife leading to divisions in the church, or compare a particular Bible passage with a Greek philosophical text. Just let us know your thoughts.